Hey everybody, welcome to Agent Pursuit. Today we are with Melissa Kost and Janine Ion, and we are, we're enjoying a glass of wine because the theme of this meeting is raising a family and building a real estate business. And these are two of the
yes,
busiest, most deserving realtor parents I know that would definitely benefit from a little bit of a glass of wine. So if you have a bit of time, we're going to try and make this as nice for you as possible, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's do a quick introduction. Melissa, let's start with you. A bit about your background and time in real estate.
I've been in real estate. I'm going on my 14th year now, full-time realtor, and I've got a family, 2 girls, 14 and 17.
Perfect.
And you're married.
And I'm married, yes.
Married.
What's your husband's name?
Jason.
So if you refer to him throughout the thing.
As my husband and Jason. And we've been married 20 years this year.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Janine?
I've been in real estate for 8 years, and I have 3 kids. 2 boys that are 14 and 16, and a girl who's 10. And my husband's name is Scott.
So we'll call him
Scott.
Scott. Got it.
Yeah, we'll call him Scott. Cool. So both of you answer, kind of someone start. Walk us through typical day in your life, realtor mom.
Our days are usually pretty crazy. All 3 of my kids go to 3 different schools, and they all leave at 3 different times.
Wow.
And they all get home at 3 different times. So the mornings are a little bit chaotic. So usually, until they're all out the door, I don't sort of start my day. Once they're all gone, then I have my coffee, that's when I do my planning, what emails do I need to return, what phone calls do I need to make, get everything planned. Then I like to have a workout and then kind of get on with my day from there. During the day while they're at school is generally planning, phone calls, emails, any running around that I have to do, and then save evenings for showings, offers. And again, my kids, they play hockey, they're in Air Cadets, so we can also be busy in the evenings with that kind of stuff too. So there's finding that balance of, I have a husband who travels, so who's going to be doing what, who's going to be taking what. But generally it's, you try and follow that guideline, and you hope that when something unexpected comes up, you can roll with the punches.
I thought a fun game during this interview would be anytime someone says the word busy, we have to take a drink.
We need more wine.
We'll need more wine for that.
And shot glasses.
Yeah. So Melissa, a typical day in life now.
Okay.
I want to take you guys back in a second here, but now.
Now, crazy is a really good word. This year is kind of a transition year because I have a driver now. My oldest is driving, so that's really helpful. So like this morning, if you want to know what happened today, I rolled over at 4 a.m. Because she has to be downtown Calgary at 5:30, so I had to get her downtown Calgary, and even though she's driving, it's
what is she doing downtown Calgary?
Swimming.
Oh.
5 mornings a week, so 4 of them before school, and it's too early in the morning for her to drive herself.
Right.
So we have a really great carpool system going on, but it was my morning to drive this morning. So today was a driving morning, but the nice thing about that is when I'm downtown at Repsol, I force myself to work out. So I actually don't mind those mornings because that's my dedicated workout time.
Nice.
And nobody needs me at 5 o'clock in the morning. Literally nobody needs me. My phone's not ringing, there's no emails going on, nothing's happening. So it's a time that I can just shut down and I can actually work out. And I'm sort of missing last year where I was there 2 to 3 times a week in the morning because now I'm only there once a week in the morning. So now I'm having to try and find other times to work out. But the rest of the week when I'm not driving, I'm usually up by about 6:30, and my morning revolves around the girls until they leave at about 8:30. So just getting them out the door, making sure that everything's set, because it's just chaos in the house until then. And then when they leave, I either will have appointments scheduled, or if I have no appointments scheduled, then I have office time where I'm just catching up on emails, making phone calls, doing those kinds of things. And then generally the evenings are reserved for market evaluation, showings, those kinds of things around their schedules in the evenings as well.
Now take us back just a little bit here, because both of you sold real estate when your kids were younger.
Yeah.
And they didn't go to school, and you didn't have that opportunity to sort of that, let's call it free time. And it's like when all the moms are cheering because September's hit again.
Right.
They're like, back to school. So maybe even in the summer it's like this. But Janine, let's start with you. What was it like having young kids in the house that aren't in school yet and trying to work in real estate?
I was a little bit lucky in the sense that at that time Scott worked from home. They didn't have an actual office in Calgary, so he still traveled, but he mostly worked from home. So if I had to leave, I usually could leave and there was somebody around. I also have an amazing group of just humans in my life. Like all my family's close. My mom lives 6 minutes away. I've got 7 brothers and sisters, so call if I need to.
Wow.
And on top of that, just my cul-de-sac. We call ourselves the cul-de-sac because we are just a group of parents all kind of in the same boat, and we're shipping kids back and forth to each other's houses if we need to, and even if it was just me calling and saying, I'm an hour away, the kids are home, if anybody can just kind of check on them and make sure that everything's good. And so I was lucky in that sense, but it does make it harder too, because when they're home and you're making phone calls and you're doing those things, you're distracted, and somebody's tugging on you and they want a snack, or they have stubbed their toe or done something, and it was a lot harder to make phone calls and even just focus your own brain at that time, because you feel like somebody else needs you. And when they're gone and out the door, it's easier to say, okay, now it's my time.
Totally.
So.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
So when I got my license, my youngest was 9 months old, right? Like, so I literally had one on my hip and one on my hand, right? Like, 'cause she was a toddler. So there were times, I'm not even gonna lie, where I would lock the bathroom door and turn on the fan, and that's how I was making phone calls. And I used to sit there and think, like, oh my God, if people only knew where I was phoning from right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sitting on the floor in the bathroom because it's the only space that I can get quiet. Because my kids were home during the day. I never really utilized daycare or day home unless I absolutely had to. So school was liberating for me. Like, school was a game changer for me when my girls went to school.
Wow.
But I also feel like I really had the best of both worlds, where I was able to be home with them during the day and
Yes.
and then work at night. And my husband enabled me to be able to do that, because he worked all day, but then he was home at night. So he really stepped in the evening time, still does, step in the evening time to be able to facilitate this
That's
crazy schedule.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it's just changed over the years, right? Where now we're dealing with activities, and both of my kids are heavily involved in their activities. I never wanted overscheduled kids, so I said one activity each, and
They got too good at it.
But one decided, okay,
Yeah.
competitive swimming, and
That's
the
right.
other
Yeah.
decided, hey, competitive dance. And so Emily dances 5 nights a week, and then weekends now are full of competition training, and Regan swims 7 times a week. We live in Airdrie, and she's coming into the Talisman 7 times a week.
Oh my Lord.
And then we have swim
Wow.
meets on top of that. So
Wow.
So let's kind of talk. So obviously you have a lot going on in your
Yeah.
family life. What has always been, as far as your business goes, like, this is my profession, I have to make an income. What has always been a non-negotiable in terms of time in a day or work time that had to be put aside for your real estate business,
well,
if any?
do you want to start?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so when my kids were little, that non-negotiable time was always after bedtime. Always, like, put the kids to bed, and then it usually was from about 9 until about 11:30. So I used to keep really late hours, but that's switched over, where now it's really early hours, where I'll get up before the house gets up and turn on the fireplace, grab a cup of tea, and sit and get my work done. But usually
Sounds kind of nice, actually.
well, it is until the chaos
Yes.
starts.
The calm before the storm.
The calm before the storm. But usually for me, it's like I need a good solid hour in that day. So for me, it's just flipped into the morning time where it used to be nighttime, where everything was calm, everything was quiet. I didn't listen to music, I didn't do anything, I just focused. And I'm very aware of distractions because a lot of my work I do at home. So I'm very aware of distractions. So often I will set a timer on my phone and say, okay, I'm taking the next 45 minutes and this is what I have to accomplish in this time, where I have to get these emails done, and I'll actually write it down. This is what I need to accomplish, and I'm not allowed to go on Facebook. I'm not allowed to do anything until I'm done. And so for me, that's how I get stuff done. And then I'll block in 15 minutes to go do the laundry. So
the time it's regimented.
It's very, when I have the time, it's very, very structured. Like making sure that, okay, I know what I need to accomplish, what I can push off to later, but what can't get done. I got a market evaluation that I promised had to get out. And, whether that's at 11:30 at night or 4 a.m., clients have gotten emails from me at 4:30 a.m. before, where I skip my workout and go sit. And there I am at Talisman, doing market evaluations and stuff. So,
Same question to me.
I think there's so many, it's difficult in our profession to say, I'm going to work from 8 till 10 a.m. because you're dependent on other people's schedules for a lot of the part. And whatever you're doing for that week will change from week to week. It might be listing appointments. It might be a lot of buyers you're working with. So generally if it's buyers, you're going to be busy in the evenings or weekends. As far as your work that you're doing just on your own, I sort of do the same thing where you pick a time when you know it's going to be quiet, and that might be different on any given day. And I learned actually from Lindsay very early on, kind of that same thing. I remember you telling me that if you're going to do something, you got to like turn your phone off, and that's really hard for me to do, and especially having
for everyone,
having kids. You're like, is somebody trying to get a hold of me? What's going on? And all the other things that you have going on in your life too, whether it's through sports or social life or whatever, you've constantly got people coming at you. And if you don't say, I'm going to take 20 minutes to do this or a half an hour to do this with no distractions, you'll never get anything done. So that's kind of been something that has been difficult for me to do, but I try to do it where you say, okay, I got to do a market evaluation and I have to return these 3 emails. I'm going to make these 4 phone calls. It's going to take me X amount of time. You have to write it down and you have to check mark it off. A lot of the things that we do are, I think, hard to gauge. Like at the end of the day, sometimes you can go, what the hell did I do?
What did I get done today?
And you did something. But so it's nice you make a list, you turn your phone off, you just give yourself that time and check mark it off as you go, and then you can go, okay, I did that. And then when someone else needs your attention or your time, it's easier to go, okay, now I can focus on you.
So what about bringing it all work, because you guys, both of you have used the word chaos and crazy a couple times in here, and I know it is like that, but what are some tips you can give people to say, you know what, my family gets fed. Some meals are probably better than others at times, and that's okay. But it's like my family gets fed, the house is in some semblance, it hasn't burned down, and I get a few business things done at any given point in time. Start with you, Janine. What are some tips that you can give people to say, okay, here's a few things that we do to make sure it all works?
Well, I know in my family, we all have specific jobs that we do.
Perfect.
And my kids are a little bit older, so people who have, toddlers, and obviously we didn't do this as much when they were younger, but my boys do pretty much all the cooking in the house. They cook almost every meal. So dinner time.
Your two teenage sons.
My 2 teenage sons, they do
How old
all
are your
the
sons?
cooking. They are 16 and almost 14.
Good for you.
And that wasn't me, actually. That wasn't me.
Lives.
Yeah, we had, and I mean, I had a day earlier this week actually and I was out with clients and then out at a hockey game and calling home at 7 o'clock saying, okay, I'm leaving the rink and I'll be home in a half an hour. And my son Maddox, who's 13, he's like, yeah, that's fine. The chicken's cooked, and he made butter.
Balsamic reduction.
Totally. He made butter chicken and rice and chapatis, and he had it all down. He just so that's something I don't have to really worry about. Yeah, we do one thing that's big, and this is whether your kids are cooking or you're doing the cooking. Every Thursday, we do a meal plan for the week. So again, our jobs and what we have to do will change. There's going to be stuff that comes up that's unexpected. But for the most part, we sit down as a family and look at our calendar and say, okay, what's going on and who's where what night? Okay, so this night has to be a crock pot night, or this night has to be, you know, whatever. The kids are on their own, so they're having whatever. So we plan ahead, get all the groceries Friday. So for the whole week now we're ready. We know what our meal plan is. We know what's happening. We know what's coming up. So that really takes a lot of stress off. It's not 4:30, 5 o'clock and you're going, what are we going to eat? What are we going to do? And again, my husband does travel, but when he's here, you know, he's taken one kid one way and I'm going another way. And
Nice.
And it's just, they know, they're old enough too, that if, you know, they may have to be left alone if I have to go meet a client for showings or a listing appointment or whatever. But it is, I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is you can't live by somebody else's definition of what success is. You have to decide
That's so true.
for yourself what your values and ideals and your goals are, and whether it's monetary or transactional or emotional or whatever it is, you have to have your own goal, and that's how you're going to create your balance, because you have to know what's important to you, to know what you're going to give up and what you're not, because every single day as a parent you're making the decision to go one direction or another, and you have to know that you're doing it for you and your family and not as a competition or as a notch for somebody else.
You know, we see this, I think, in our society more than ever, the whole super mom perspective. It's like, oh, well,
I'm
you
not
know.
her.
Yeah, the theme birthday should be like this,
Right.
and the dinner should be like this, and oh, and my waistline should look like this, and you know, things like that. And I love what you said about, like, you have to define success for yourself, and the fact that your kids are still here and they're successful, and you know, you're competing, and your kids are making dinner and things like that. Like, that's, to me already, I'm just like, that's success. Like,
Yeah.
you guys have nailed it.
Well, and I think knowing, like Melissa said, you know, she didn't use day home or daycare when her kids were younger, and neither did I. And part of the reason I chose this career is because I wanted to be home.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to volunteer at the school. I wanted to be able to be with my kids. So that was a choice I made, and other parents won't make that choice, and that's fine. You know, no judgment or anything on what anybody else decides, but that does take away from the amount of time and the amount of focus that you have. So you know that going in, that it's important to you
Yeah.
to be with your kids.
Looking back, I probably would have utilized those services a little bit more,
Right.
right? Like you learn as you go, and you go, oh, I probably would have put my kids in day home or daycare a little bit more, but now that I'm sort of on the back end of that, I'm really glad I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, like I had lots of hands-on time at home with them, so.
So tell me now, Melissa, how are you making it all work? Like, what's some of the tips? And again, but it's literally like, you know, you make sacrifices
I
too.
really wish I could say that my kids cook, but my kids are not home at night.
Right.
Right? Like I got one kid that doesn't like to cook.
Yeah.
Like my swimmer, she does not like to cook at all.
She has one kid that doesn't like to cook, eat too. Yeah.
And my husband, he doesn't, like, he's exhausted when he gets home too. Like, he puts in a full day, so cooking for him is a big deal too. So I don't know if you want to call it cheat, but like I've just gotten really, really good at utilizing other services. A long, long time ago, very early in my career, Ann Clark told me, if it doesn't require your talent, you don't have to do it. You can outsource it. So once every 2 weeks, somebody comes and cleans my house. They don't do, like she's amazing, and I've been through a couple of cleaners. She doesn't do it like to 100% my specifications, but I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Amen.
My vacuum
Totally.
cleaner broke down one day, and I went to Costco and I bought myself a Roomba. And so now, you know, I just turn it on and it goes and it bounces around all over the place. It doesn't do like 100% efficient, but it's doing a better job than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing it, right? So I've relied really heavily on gadgets. I have an Instant Pot that I like love.
How do you like it? Yeah.
Oh, I love my Instant Pot. That could be a whole other session that we talk about.
Love the Instapot.
I bought an air fryer at Costco, also amazing. Vitamix, fantastic. Like I
You
could
get good
sell.
Costco rebates.
Oh yeah, I totally. I could sell these products because they just make my life easier.
Yeah.
Right.
I buy wine at Costco. It makes my life easier.
I'm a huge fan. I live in Airdrie, so I'm really lucky. There's a business out there called Social Supper, and they actually put meals together for you, and I don't even have to go in anymore because they deliver them to your door. And I also use a company called Chef's Plate. So those are fresh meals, social suppers, frozen meals. So Crock Pot Days, and I can very clearly identify in my calendar what's going to be a Crock Pot day and what's going to be I can actually cook this day, or somebody else can cook it day. So Chef's Plate's really great because it comes to your door, everything's fresh, and there's like a detailed color instruction step by step. So like there's no messing it up. Like my 13-year-old or my 14-year-old can do it. My husband can do it. Anybody can follow these colorful.
Just compare both of them. It's like my 13-year-old and my husband.
Yeah, everybody can do it. So Chef's Plate's really great for that. But if I know that tomorrow's a crock pot day, I can pull something out of my freezer and throw it in the crock pot. So that's kind of how I cope with meals. Superstore's click and collect is really great because I can sit as I'm waiting for an appointment, and I can start preloading my groceries, what I need for the week, and then click send. And my daughter's dance is right behind Superstore, so my husband will go and
So logistics,
pick it up.
lots of good logistics planning.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah, that makes sense.
timing.
From a real estate perspective, so obviously, you both mentioned you have some good support networks, which are helpful. From a real estate perspective, do you rely on third parties more? So an example, there's some people who have all the time in the world and they measure their own houses. Or there's people who love doing all of their own social media, right? Like they love designing. Are these the types of things that for you guys you would just be like, I'm paying for someone else to do that?
Yeah, I have I have a stager, a photographer, and measurements. All that is, I would never, no thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. That all gets sourced out, all of that. Everything else I pretty much, there's days, obviously I'm a bookkeeper and the accountant and that kind of thing. And there's days when I think, I could use somebody to kind of help out with some other stuff. But I, again, those good old boys, I employ my children. They are, they work for my company. And so they do little things for me that they can. They hang the door knockers. They just those little things that's like you want to do them, but you don't really have the time in your day. A lot of my listings, I will make little picture frames with did you know kind of things in them and put them around the house.
Yeah, did you know what this countertop is made of?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you know there's a school half a block from here, whatever. And that's the job of one of my boys. He makes them and cuts them and puts them in the frames and gets them ready for me. Because again, it's such a simple task, but I don't have time, and every 16-year-old kid wants money. So
When
Fine,
I've been,
$5 a week is,
it's minimum wage. They hold me to that.
I've been to your house before, and I don't remember what it was we were doing, but I don't remember which son it was. But he walked out. You handed him a Tim Hortons gift card, and I was like, "What did you just do?" And he was like, "Well, he just did whatever." And so you have these Tim Horton gift cards that every time, and they're nominal.
Yeah,
but
it's just a $5 Tim Hortons gift card. So that's for the smaller jobs that they do because.
Awesome.
The problem
he loved it was a big deal.
Yeah, but
is that your 13-year-old?
That was my 13-year-old. That was my son Maddox. So the problem with training our kids young to do things for us is we also really taught them the art of negotiation.
Oh, absolutely.
They will do things like, they'll be like, oh, can I have $5? And I'm like, yeah, go vacuum my car. And they're like, I'll do it for 10. And I'm like, so it just becomes this every time it's a back and forth. So I have Tim Hortons gift cards, $5 is all that's on them. And I use them a lot, like birthday cards, whatever, you're sending them out all the time. So I have a stash of them. So I'll need them to do something for me. And it's like, whoa, $5 Tim Hortons gift card in it for whoever does it first. And all three of them run and scramble to get it done.
My kids like e-transfers.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
And then they already come to me with a proposition.
Yeah.
I know you need some laundry done, so I'll do it can you e-transfer me?
Funny.
Sometimes the first thing out of my kids' mouth when I see them in the morning is, how much will you pay me for?
Yeah, there's also that.
Really?
So Melissa, in your business now, what are you hiring out? What are you doing yourself?
I hire out a lot of stuff. I'm really listing heavy.
Yeah.
So like Janine, I have a stager. I I learned years and years ago, it is not of good value for me to be measuring property when I was outside in hip deep snow.
Yeah.
And the RMS course just reaffirmed that. I have no business measuring property. So I have a measurement company, photographer. So all of that gets hired out. And I do have an assistant who takes care of like broker loading all of my listings. I go in and double check all of everything, make sure that it's all good. But she does all the write-ups for me. She sends in all my trade record sheets for me. Just kind of takes care of all of that bulky paperwork stuff. So that's
Cool.
what I hire out.
That's awesome.
I'll do the next question.
Yeah.
Okay, so we always don't get to plan out when things happen in our business. So Melissa, start with you. You're at a kid's birthday party, one of your kids, you're there, offers coming in on one of your listings. And maybe this listing's sitting on the market for a while, first market you have.
That's when you go hide in the bathroom.
That's right. So that's the question. How are you handling inopportune times that business requirements come up?
I mean, sort of depending on the situation. I mean, if I know that I am fully unavailable for the whole day, I used to have the luxury. I used to work with my brother.
Yes.
I'm not able to do that anymore. He's gone and joined the fire department.
Yes.
But I have another realtor that I'm working with now. So if I know that I'm unavailable for a block of time, she just covers off for me. I'll forward my phone or forward my pages. Anything that comes in, I'll send her a text to say, hey, can you deal with this for me?
Perfect.
So that's that. But often, like, I've really learned over the years, and maybe you have too, but nothing is so urgent that it needs to be dealt with this second.
Right.
Right? Like, we can shut our phones off for dinner, and whatever is going on, whether it's an offer. No, we can. We really, really can. Like, I don't answer my phone when I'm with clients, right? Like, I'll be in an hour and a half listing appointment, and my phone gets turned off, and nobody died. Right? Like, it's still waiting for me when it's done. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, if I'm at a birthday party and I know it's about an hour and a half, I might listen to my voicemail, step outside, call the agent and say, hey, thank you for the offer. I'm going to send it over to my clients and I'll be in touch with you in about 2 hours.
Perfect.
And to that point too, you set up an expectation with people. I know when I first started, like a text came in and I was responding.
Yeah.
Email, text, whatever.
Totally.
It was like boom, boom, boom. So then when you finally teach yourself that you don't have to do that, if someone doesn't hear back from you when they text you in 10 minutes, they're like, is she dead? Like, what happened to Janine? Because they expect that you're going to be on it, and they kind of get annoyed when you're not, depending on who they are. But you're right. I mean, to turn your phone off and say, I'm going to have like half an hour to eat dinner with my family without phones going, and I'm telling my kids, put your phones away and that kind of thing. And I think nothing feels that urgent, but there are things that come up
that have to get tended to
That
right
have
away,
to get-
right? Like,
Of
I've
course.
been out at a concert and I've gotten an offer before and I was like, oh, nothing's happened. So all of a sudden now I'm dealing with that. So, you might have to remove yourself from the situation for a few minutes. But really, I mean, in 14 years, there's been very, very few times that you haven't been able to juggle both.
Yeah. Janine, do you have somebody that you pass business off to if you go
I
away?
do.
or-
I have, and I'm a little bit of a control freak.
We all are.
Micromanager.
We all are, yeah.
You don't want to let it go. You don't want to. And you do things a certain way. I've been lucky enough to find somebody else who I feel like is works well with me.
Nice.
Yep.
So we do. We take care of each other's stuff when we're away, and I know I 100% trust her. I can hand her, a stack of files, and she's met pretty much all my clients just through the years that we've been doing this. I still have the bad habit of, even when I'm on vacation, kind of just like check it, or I have service, it's okay, I can deal with it. And
Yeah.
I had a situation the summer before last, I think, and I was out at a friend's houseboat, and I had a listing that had been sitting forever. No showings, nothing. And that weekend I got 2 offers on it. And the only way to get service was either to hike to the top of a hill or to take a boat to the middle of the lake where you were on the US border and could actually get service. And so just there I was, like
A lot of time.
boating out to the middle of the lake.
I'm not hiking.
I'm not walking up a hill, you kids, boat me out there. You know, and I mean, we got it done, and again, same thing. You're like, if they only knew
If people
where I was
only
from.
knew
Yes.
where we
Here
were
I
doing
am, you know,
business,
yeah, my
right?
laptop and my phone, and
Yeah.
I'm in this little boat.
Was that Kukanus though?
Yeah.
Which lakes bisect that have hiking and?
Yes, it was. Yeah, and
That's
it when
funny.
just where we were, we had no service, and we happened to be heading into town, and that's when I realized we had the offers, and yeah, it's hard. I mean, I very easily could have said, you know what, you deal with it, you know, to the girl who was taking care of my stuff, but there's that part of you that's like, no, I can do this. I can do this. I can do it all.
So you mentioned, both of you like volunteering with the kids' schools. You have a pretty big, you are involved in a lot of different clubs and camps, and you have 3 kids, so many different activities. Both of your daughters are really involved in different clubs as well. Is that when you look at, you know, Ninja, we've talked about Ninja a few times in some of our meetings, but when you look at Ninja and just the whole building your database and finding harmony in your life in terms of how you're building your social circle and your business, have you found that being a mom with children and being exposed to different groups that otherwise you wouldn't have been has been a bit of an advantage as far as lead streams? And how do you look at that thinking like, you know, Emily has 40 kids in her swim club, they all have parents, I know these parents, I've traveled with them. Is there an opportunity where it's like, if these people are going to use a realtor, like, it should be me?
I think Regan's the swimmer.
Regan's
a
you're
swimmer.
right.
I'm sorry.
You're right.
I'm
Emily's
sorry.
the dancer.
Emily's the dancer.
I've been really bad at that, like where I haven't tapped into my networks that way. You know, like I'm there, I'm busy, I'm involved with the organizations, so some people know I'm a realtor, but I haven't been fantastic about letting people know that. And I should, and I actually am getting better. This year, thanks to Natalie Barthume, she's like, why aren't you sponsoring the golf tournament? If you don't do it, I will. And I'm like, I guess I better sponsor it, like for dance, right? And that sort of sparked something in me that, okay, I actually need to pay more attention to.
There's an opportunity here.
There's an opportunity here, and I know I've been missing it.
Yeah.
I know I completely 100% have been missing it. So that's an area that I'm going to look to get a little bit better at. Totally missed the boat with the swim club. We've been with them for 8 years. But, you know, live and learn.
Yeah.
But just been busy doing
aspects of
there's
business.
a chug. Doing other stuff. So yeah, it's something I should have done better at. I could have been sponsoring, could have been doing like water bottles or whatever the case is.
Janine?
I think it is nice. You meet a lot of people. You're exposed to a lot of people. I have a very busy life myself, and then along with what my kids do, I meet a lot of people. I am always out at events and things. I try not to go into it though laser focused on like there's 15 kids on this team, there's 30 parents on them. You know, like
No,
like
no,
you,
no,
like
no,
it
no.
just
And that's
you
never
don't.
what I've done.
And
Yeah,
again, like
right.
Ninja, right? It's I don't go into it thinking.
No, it needs to be
There's 30
harmony
people.
where
But
it's like,
stuff-
hey,
it's
I'm
just
here,
about-
I'm
it's
here
the
anyways. Let's have a
relationships.
conversation
Right.
with them.
Stuff
Yeah.
has happened organically,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Exactly.
Not because I pushed it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know,
Totally.
like.
And I think that, right, you just, it's about the relationships. And so it is nice that you sort of have all these other, you know, you meet people. And a lot of the times, like you said, it'll be weeks or months that you know somebody before they even know that you're a realtor. But I think that, you know, shows that you weren't just kind of like,
Yeah,
"Rah."
and sometimes people appreciate that.
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
that you're not like shoving it down
Oh,
their throat
absolutely.
that you're doing that. So I think in some respects it's been beneficial
Yeah.
too.
I am the manager of my daughter's hockey team. I know. Why? I don't know. And so again, like every email that I send out, we're hosting a tournament, so 65 families. Every email I send out has my
Your
signature, my name,
yeah.
and everything on it. So I mean, it's, you know, it's a little bit of a
That's cool. That's great.
subliminal
though.
messaging.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that
there's-
if they work at Shell and they're emailing you back, it probably says PNG Natural Resources, right? Like it just,
Right.
it is what it is. You're using your work email too, right?
Right. But you meet a lot of people, and it's good, and you make connections. And sometimes, again, like organically or randomly, people will ask you a question, you know, and it doesn't turn into something for a little while, for a couple of years, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, you've made a connection with somebody, and they
Bit of
become
opportunity.
a client. Yeah, yeah.
Fair.
I'm skipping a question here because I was told she had to ask it.
Oh, I'm just joking.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll skip it anyways. We don't need to know about that. I'm just kidding.
I think it's
So-
a good question.
Now I want to know what the question
Okay, so let's talk about the husbands.
Oh,
Okay.
no, next question.
Yeah.
Jason.
That's what I was like, I want to ask the question.
Jason.
The exact question reads, let's chat about the relationship with your husband. I was like, whoa, Lindsay.
Bow, chicka, bow, bow.
But that's a big thing because
That's exactly where I was going with it. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
But I can only imagine, your husband they work.
Yeah.
They get home from an entire day of working, and then you guys are like, I'm leaving. I have showings. I have stuff to do. Like there's no break for you.
Yeah.
So I bet that's a tough job on certain days for your husbands, and even thinking about your own personal time together. Lots of other families is we both come home at 5 o'clock today, and the evenings are for our families where we're both going to go here. We're going to do that where you guys are separating. So how have your husbands been in kind of knowing that when they get home, sometimes they're not, it's not time to take a load off. It's like my wife's going to work, I'm still
And
on.
how do you keep the relationship? How is that
Both
relationship
questions,
is
yeah.
there? Yeah.
It is challenging, I think, because also too this career, it's so cyclical, right? So there will be times, there will be months or years where you feel like you're
Years.
gone all day, every day. I mean, I remember, that there were times when from, February 1st to June 15th, I felt like I was never home. I was constantly out just working, and then when you would get home, you were face down in the computer, just like doing whatever. So it is hard because you're sort of ignoring other responsibilities, and I think Jason and Scott need to be understanding. They do understand that's what it is. Like that's part of your job. And I think in the early years it was harder to sort of understand that because you're taking off and you're like, bye, I'm dumping everything on you. And now, honestly, he's my biggest supporter. He's always like, yeah, go do what you got to do. We got this. He's had nights where he's driven, kids to 3 different hockey rinks and whatever, because that's what you have to do. You have to be a team and you have to work together and you have to both support each other. He travels for work, so there's times when I'm doing it all, and then there's times when he's doing it all. But you do have to understand and appreciate that it is our job, and it's hard because it's not 9 to 5, and it is, you get people calling you late at night, or you get people wanting all of your time. You gotta make time for your date nights or whatever. Scott and I just went to Europe for 2 weeks without kids. I swear to God, the first time we've been alone in like 15 years. So it's like, there's not a lot of time to carve out to kind of be alone. And again, because it's kids' activities, it's your own stuff that you're doing, and it's work and everything else. And so you have to make the time, and that comes with scheduling. So again, like we do the meal plan, we look at the schedule, and it's like, okay. When he worked at home, that was one thing we always did, was every afternoon at 2 o'clock before kids got home from school, before everything got crazy, we would sit down and like sync our calendars and sort of just have like an afternoon meeting, and it just helped kind of make things run smoothly. That's harder now, but you have to make the time if you want it to work.
Okay, so Melissa,
Yeah.
same question. How do you preserve the relationship with your significant other in the midst of all the busyness?
I don't know. I feel so lucky. My husband is like, he's just so good. Like this has just been something that he's had to do. Like he has the benefit of his job is sort of like 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then he can turn off his phone, right? Like as where I can't. So when he comes home, his day's not over, but I do try to do things to make things easier for him, like with having dinners going
for sure.
and those kinds of things. So it's kind of a give take. He's off 1 day a week, like he's off Tuesdays, so I do almost everything I can to try and carve out a couple of hours in that Tuesday. for us to go out for lunch or for us to just have a few hours free. As the girls are older now, like we found on Saturday night, both our kids weren't home. So we went to a movie. Like, when's the last time that happened, right?
Yeah.
And so we're just like trying to look ahead and carve out
We really have you here because we're like, let's decide if we should have children. Let's bring in Melissa and Janine and just really lay all of this out and make some decisions.
There's a lot of date nights at Costco.
Yeah.
Like, let's ditch the kids. Let's go to Costco by ourselves.
To be honest, that's really what it is, right? Like it's finding time of, okay, we need a new mattress. So that's the date where we go pick out a new mattress, but then we'll go have lunch or whatever the case is, right? Like this year was our 20th anniversary, and like Janine said, like I don't have the kind of support that you have in terms of people being able to help out with my kids. I have my sister, God bless her, but she's a single mom. She works full time, and she took my kids for 5 days so that we could go to California for 5 days for our 20th anniversary. Otherwise, like there's just no way that we could get away with the schedule that these kids keep. So.
And you get creative. Our anniversary this year falls on the same weekend as my daughter's hockey tournament, which is in BC. So it's like we're staying at the Fairmont for our
and we do a lot of things
make it
with
work.
the kids, right? Like one thing that's been non-negotiable for us, we take a family holiday every year.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable. So yeah, like I don't know how single moms do it. Like hats off to the single moms, but I could never ever do this business and raise kids by myself because I couldn't do it without my husband.
Fair.
That's nice. Yeah. What about me time? Like, do you ever have alone time? Are you ever alone?
Even personal hobbies.
Like when I'm
do
sleeping.
you guys, like what? Yeah. What do you guys get that personal interest or that time for yourself?
Yes.
That's okay.
I do, and probably again a lot more than I should because my husband is very understanding. That
You have
it's
a gap.
I know. You love Scott. I know.
love Scott.
You always tell me.
Yeah. If you and Scott don't work out, I'm.
Oh, by the way,
And we don't work
He's
out.
like, what?
if you and I both get hit on by a bus on the same
Scott's,
day.
That's right, that's
Scott's my
exactly.
plan B.
Okay. No, he's very good. Like I said, he's my biggest supporter for even when I wanted to start real estate. It was honestly, he was working from home. I was at home, and I was like, with love, I gotta do something. And it was like, he was like, yeah, whatever, like do whatever you want. And he always, that's no matter what I say I want to do, that's what he said. I mean, I'm out singing or doing whatever, and he's just like, yeah, go. And it's hard because I'll be out 4 nights a week. I'm either out with a kid for hockey, or I'm out for work, or I'm out with a band, or I'm out doing something where I'm out a lot. And I don't imagine that it's super easy for him, but he does kind of support everything that I do. As far as being alone, I'm actually thinking of renting Tina's loft apartment. I'm like,
Just as an aside, it's
just
like,
like a little place to
Yeah.
kind of, because it is hard. I mean, even again, like when he travels, I'm always like, oh yeah, like maybe I'll have a night by myself. I'll kick back and watch Netflix. But it's like, no, there's always stuff. There's none of that. So it is difficult, but I think but that's my choice. I have a busy social life. If I didn't have all those other things that I do on the side, then maybe I would have more kind of alone time. But it does come down to having somebody who supports you in what you want to do and can back you up.
Well, there's probably a fine balance too, because again, kind of like back to real estate. There's probably, my guess would be a lot of pressure. It's like there is free time. You've been at these 3 hockey games. You have had to clean your house, whatever it is. If 2 hours of free time come up, it's probably a fine balance to saying like, I'm going to go relax, or I haven't had that much time to work on my business this week.
Right.
And trying to find some sort of balance, being like, well, I have 15 hours only in the last 48 hours. Like, what portion of that is going to go to my business? Because I know that your business is also important to both of you. So that must be some tough decision making sometimes too.
Yeah. I don't get a lot of free time for myself, so that's why the swim mornings were super good,
Right.
because that's where like I had dedicated time that I knew, okay, And I'm really struggling this year, like since September, I'm really struggling with like trying to find time to work out because I used to it was just there and it was built in. So now like actually trying to build it in, it's not working all that fantastic. I actually last year, and I started this year, I take piano one morning a week. I always wanted to learn.
You learn to play the piano.
I'm just learning, like I'm terrible at it. And my teacher is very, very patient with me. She understands that the only time I'm gonna touch the piano is during my my half-hour session once a week.
Yeah.
Like I literally like bring my books home, they sit on the piano bench, and then I go back to piano Wednesday mornings. But I'm starting to try and carve out these little things of everything that I've always wanted to do. But that's about it for now. Like for me, travel is super, super important. So I've taken
You'll make time for that.
I've taken some really great trips this year and have some plans for
Nice.
some really great trips next year too.
That's
But so my me time is kind of in small pieces, like 5 days as opposed to once a week.
Yeah.
So Janine, raising kids, starting a real estate business, or raising a family, because I feel like you raised Scott too, probably. Easier or harder than you thought it
Don't
would
talk
be?
about Scott like that.
A little mix of both. I would say it depends on what year we're talking about.
Yeah, fair.
Because honestly, it is hard because you always feel, I think you always have guilt as a mom. You have like that mom guilt never goes away. You always look back and think, ugh, I should have done this or I should have said that, or you're so busy that you have that moment where you kind of just, push someone or something away, and later at night you think about it and you sort of think maybe I should have focused more on this or that. You have
Get your hair off your microphone. There you go.
you have months or weeks when you're really busy and months or weeks when you're not. And so just trying to balance that out and feel like you're doing the best that you can. I have cleaners that come every 2 weeks too, and I used to have insane guilt about that. Like I was like, I can't even clean my own house. But I found that if you can get rid of the things that are taking up space in your brain, where you have so much else going on and all you can think of is, I gotta clean 4 showers. And it's such a stupid thing. Somebody else can do that for you. And maybe your kids could do it, but they're not going to do a good job, and they're better cooks than they are cleaners, so I can only give them so much to do. But it is, I think it's harder than I thought, but I am grateful for the people who I have, and that's, I mean, everybody. Like my kids are amazing, my husband's awesome. CIR is hands down the greatest place I've ever been. Like just the people here everyone's willing to help, and you feel like you have backup, you feel like you have support from anybody at any time. And so it's not been easy, but it certainly has had its challenges, but it's been fun.
Easier or harder?
Way harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, way. I mean, real estate's been way harder. Parenting's been way harder. Everything's just been way harder than I ever thought it would be.
Isn't that funny? It's like we would have.
Yeah.
It's like no one. They always say that about entrepreneurs too. It's like if you knew what you'd have to go through to build your business.
Yeah.
It's like I would have never taken it.
Honestly, I love my kids, and my kids are amazing. But
They won't watch this.
But seriously, if
in that case.
if I knew how hard parenting was going to be, I probably would have chickened out.
Wow.
And like I remember people telling me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this covered. Like, I still don't have it covered, right? Like it's just. If I had just a little window into what my world would look like, I would have walked away. I would have said, "No, I'm out." But I'm glad I did.
obviously.
I'm glad I'm along for the ride. So you just do what you got to do to make it work and figure it out and find your people. And I've got great friends and a good support system.
Yeah,
and,
I feel like this
and a
one-
good brokerage.
A lot of
like
wine.
Janine said, and wine.
Yeah.
wine.
I'm a big fan of the wine.
I feel like this
but-
last question is going to put the nail in the coffin that we're just going to have dogs. But is raising a family expensive?
I didn't write the question that way.
No.
I said raising a family is expensive.
Is expensive. Do you have any tips for managing your money day to day? Wait, I'm just joking.
Don't put your kids in dance. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
tip.
Or
any
hockey. Oh God, they'll never play
Oh, yeah.
hockey.
Or no, don't make them competitive. That's the issue.
The problem is that when they
You
hit
can
a
be
certain point, it's
really bad
always
at hockey.
competitive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what they do. They hit a point where it's
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Art, a home alone art studio.
Yeah, that might work.
Think of my pencil crayons your mom has.
And think of how quiet and independent and in the basement she is all the time.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask the
Yes,
question.
sorry, ask the question.
Okay, so because I feel like for families, what advice would you give to people who are planning to, plan for retirement and because both of you have, enough kids that it's like they're going to have to go to education.
More than enough.
Yeah.
I only have 2.
Yeah. Wait. I don't
She
think
has
I meant it that way. But it's like planning for the financial obligations for education and even your own retirement.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for managing money day to day?
Asterisk on that, while also making sure you have enough money in the pipe to run a business, because it's not like you can just run a business with day-to-day money. It's like
Right.
there's costs that come up and you probably need to have, where some people just need to plan for retirement, you need to also plan for if the market tanks, for example, which it has, how do I make sure that I'm more full-scale managing money?
Well, just some tips.
You also, again, you have to have your own vision of what your values and goals are. Melissa said it, and I agree too, that we put a high priority on vacation time with our family. We go on a family vacation every year, and that's important to us. So that's a family of 5 going anywhere is a big chunk of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's something that's important to us and important for us to do as a family. So that's something we budget for. I think that anyone in any business with or without kids, you have to plan for all of those things: retirement, education, school. I pay my kids to do stuff. We've taught our kids to put a portion of their money away. It is difficult, I think, especially with real estate when you're starting out and you get that first check. You're like, it's like you don't know.
all
Nobody's
gone.
telling you, but
Yeah.
you have to plan. You've got to pay tax on
you've
that.
got
You've got
monthly
to plan, and you've got monthly
expenses
expenses.
Yeah.
And so I think from the beginning, really just setting up a plan for how are you going to pay yourself, and you need to pay yourself. You need to allow yourself a little bit of a, for getting the job done. But you've got to be responsible. You've got to put money away, whether it's towards your mortgage, towards your RSP, whatever it is. Plan first before you even start. That has to be something that's in your whole business plan setup. Is what are you going to do when you start making money? How are you going to plan for that? And I mean, I have a guy. I have a guy who does it. I got a guy for that. But it's something, I mean, you just put it away. And I mean, at the end of the day, you start doing it and it's like, you got to put $100 here and this there and whatever. But you just start to not notice it after a while, right? And then it's good and you feel like you're putting it towards something. You have to plan.
Do you
for
put
that.
any money like in a drawer in your house?
Sometimes.
Why are you coming over?
No.
Kirsten has this mattress
Yeah,
theory that
the Tim Hortons.
money should go in a mattress. She
Yeah.
has this
Okay,
belief.
not a mattress. But
Not a mattress. I feel like 1/20th of all of our money should go in cash in a vault
Yeah.
and just.
Okay, so I'll tell you something that's kind of funny. And I mean, I'm honest to God, one day I'm going to write a book about it. We have an envelope system that we started back in the day. We like to say back when we were poor. Because Scott and I used to both work full-time jobs in oil and gas, and then I had kids and I stayed home. And anyway, there were certain things that would come up every year where you were like, oh my God, all of a sudden it's Christmas, and you need this or that. And so we started.
And then you just have this money and you're
And
like,
yeah,
Hold on,
and
let
it
her
was
finish.
little. So it was little. We would put away, it'd be like, like $5 or $10 a paycheck that you would just put away. And then when Christmas came, you had cash. And then we were like, okay, well, what else comes up? There's, car registration comes up every flip in January when, you've just spent all your money on Christmas. And so we started this sort of envelope system where it was so silly, but at the time it helped our brains to sort of organize what we were doing. And it was, birthday parties. Our kids get invited to birthday parties left, right, and center, and you're, shelling out money, and they need new winter boots, and they need this and that. And those are all the kinds of things that you don't you don't plan for, and then all of a sudden it's October and 3 kids need new winter coats and boots and snowsuits and stuff. So we started doing that, and it's kind of funny because even now to this day, like 20 years later, we still have it in our brain. It's like this envelope system of controlling our money and planning for things that you know are going to come up. We have a pool, so we know that every 3 years we need to buy a new cover for the pool. So you're going to need a couple $1,000 for stupid things.
You guys have
like
a reserve fund study for
Yeah.
your family. That's like
exactly,
really
yeah,
smart.
and it just
Yeah.
makes more sense than waiting for that moment to happen and putting it on a credit card and then trying to dig yourself out of that. It's sort of just pre-planning for those moments, and you could just put it all into a big nest egg and call it your emergency fund. We just sort of prefer to categorize it so we
I
know
like
what's
that.
going on. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly, but
So Melissa,
Yeah.
same thing now. What have you guys done and tips you can give people?
So instead of the envelope system, I have a bank account system.
Yeah.
So like we're incorporated.
Yeah.
And automatically when I get paid, 25% of my income goes into a savings account. And that covers off my GST, that tends to cover off my taxes, that tends to cover off my accounting fees,
Totally.
everything for the year. And then once we pay ourselves out, I tend to take 10% and put it away into a travel account. So I never book a trip if I don't have the cash in hand.
Nice.
So that's like number one. So if I have cash in hand, I can travel. If I don't, then I can dream about travel and figure out how I'm going to get cash in hand to go.
Totally.
And then 10% I try to put away for investment as well, whether it's into an RRSP or TFSA.
Yeah,
so that's kind of my envelope system, but in a different way. But I sort of am with you in stuffing money in the mattress, but not really in the mattress. So if I pull $20 out of the bank and I spend 7 of it, I'll just keep the rest of it in an envelope. Like I'll just take my change, put it in an envelope. I never ever carry cash. And all of a sudden I find myself got $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Like, just you take $20 here, put it.
I feel like I'm outnumbered here.
But then I've had this money to
It's like surprise money.
I'm going to Nashville and I can take this and convert it into American money without like tapping into
it feels like it
into the
doesn't even
family
count.
reserves. Right? It doesn't
and
count.
you feel like
Doesn't
you
count.
feel like you deserve it, right?
Right.
You've got your envelope
It's sort
that
of like
says
my spending money.
Nashville, yeah.
One thing that Jason and I have done is we do allowances, which sounds kind of funny, but every 2 weeks we each take $100.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes that's my mattress money. That's what goes into that account. And often I don't know what I'm going to spend it on, but I usually figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Like something's come up and it's like, ooh, I have $1,000. And I don't have to go take $1,000 out of the bank account, so that's, but that's just guilt-free money. We can do whatever we want with that. We don't have to justify it. We don't have to do anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on and
Thanks, ladies.
giving us this information. And
This
we
is our
finished our
stuff.
wine. This is why we're
wine.
done, because we're finished our wine.
Somebody's so good.
But it is really
That
nice
one's
that you were
fine.
here, and there's a lot of people that have it. Well, I know there's a lot of people that have a tough time with this, and I'm glad that you shared that it's not all super easy, because I think that there's a huge group of people out there, and this is not just a mom thing; it's a dad thing too. And I think that a lot of people struggle with it, and it's one of the things that we don't talk about. We always talk about like how to make more money and like how to be more efficient in your transactions. But at the end of the day, life is pretty important.
It's how to be efficient in life.
And it's nice just to have a real conversation about the fact that like life takes planning, and sometimes it's tough, and here are some good tips to make it work, and we can do all of it even if it's not great, and it's just nice to have a real conversation that's not 100% business focused all the time. And so thank you for talking about your husbands and your kids and your money, like total personal stuff, but
Yeah.
I think everyone's going to really appreciate just having an honest talk about it, so thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
And thank you guys for tuning in to Agent Pursuit. We'll be back next week with more great content. Check out agentpursuit.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and make sure you subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So all the best, and Janine and Melissa, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody.
Take care.